Okay, today's video is about the trig ratios and how we use trig to solve for a missing side of a triangle. So our EQ are what are the three trig ratios and how do we use trig to solve for a missing side. So just a little bit of review, the trig ratios are sine, cosine, and tangent. So sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and tangent is opposite over adjacent. I just wanted to review and point out sine is telling you what ratio to use. And then this x is actually the reference angle. And then obviously opposite over hypotenuse, that's the side lengths that you're using. So same with cosine, same with tangent. So we're just going to start with some examples. So in our first picture, our angle is 38 degrees. That's going to be our reference angle. We have the opposite and the adjacent side. So using our trig ratios, opposite and adjacent is tangent. So I'm going to use tangent of 38, and I'm going to set up my ratio. Tangent of 38, opposite of 38 is W, and adjacent is 17. So to get W by itself, I'm going to multiply on both sides. And I get W equals 17 times tangent of 38. If you do not have a calculator, this is as far as you could go. If you do have a calculator, you could plug this in. And if you plug in 17 times tangent of 38, you get 13.282. So that's going to be our answer. So we're going to do that again, but for question number 2. So in our picture, 62 degrees is our reference angle. It's the only angle given. We have the opposite and we have the hypotenuse. So opposite and hypotenuse is sine. So we're going to have sine of 62 is equal to opposite, which is 24, over x. Now, this equation looks a little bit different because our variable is in the denominator. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change sine of 62 into sine of 62 over 1. So now I have two equal ratios, which is a proportion. To solve this proportion, we are going to use cross multiplication. So I'm going to have x times sine of 62 equal to 24 times 1, which is just 24. So now to isolate the x and get it by itself, I'm going to undo this multiplication by doing division by dividing by sine of 62. So I get x is equal to 24 over sine of 62. So I'm going to plug that into my calculator, and I'm going to get 27.182. So we're going to try it again with our third example. My reference angle here is 50. I have the adjacent and the hypotenuse, so I'm going to be using cosine. So cosine of 50 is equal to the adjacent, which is z, over 35. Since my variable is in the numerator, I can just multiply by 35 on both sides, and I get z is equal to 35 times the cosine of 50. So I'm going to plug that into my calculator, and I get 22.498. So I've got 3 more examples. So for my next one, number 4, my reference angle here is 56, and I have the opposite and adjacent, which is going to be tangent. So tangent of 56 is opposite, which is 25, over adjacent, which is w. Now in this case, my variable is in the denominator. So again, I'm going to make a proportion, cross multiply, and then solve. So when I cross multiply, I get w times tangent of 56 is equal to 25. I'm going to undo this multiplication using division. So tangent of 56, divide on both sides. And I get w equals 25 divided by the tangent of 56. Again, if you don't have a calculator, you can stop here and come in before or after school to plug in your numbers. So when we plug that in, I get 16.863. Okay, for number 5, our reference angle is 26. opposite of the 26 is x, and the hypotenuse is 32. So opposite and hypotenuse is going to be sine. So sine of 26 is going to equal opposite x over 32. So I'm going to multiply by 32 on both sides. So I get x equals 32 times sine of 26. And I'm going to plug that into my calculator and get 14.028. And for last one, number 6, my reference angle is 57. And I have the adjacent and the hypotenuse, which is cosine. So cosine of 57 is going to be 28 over z. My variable is in the denominator, so I'm going to make a proportion and cross multiply, and I get z times the cosine of 57 is equal to 28. And I'm going to divide by cosine of 57 on both sides. And I get z is equal to 28 divided by cosine of 57. And I'm going to plug that into my calculator and get 51.410.